All right, all right, all right. Here's my customary thing. We're back again in the counselor's corner tonight. And tonight's topic is going to be, should pastors be held to a higher standard? Also, I'm waiting for, and I'm going to shout you out, for Sondra Princess Brown to call in because this was a requested subject matter from her. And before I go into my counselor's concerns, let me just read the description. So, well, we are back with another controversial topic, and we will have a special guest, Sondra Princess Brown, joining Herbert Lewis and I. We all know that no one is perfect, but certain positions require certain expectations. But as we all can see, crazy things are happening in the homes, church, schools, workplace, and etc. We are living in a world of evil times, and many leaders are operating from that standpoint. Tune in and let us know what are your thoughts. So the call in numbers 605-313-5375. Um, the code is 268328. So shout out to Herb, he's in the house, Muhammad, uh, Ben Ali, Michelle Cox, Lynette Peterson. So just waiting for Sandra. But we're gonna roll with it, with or without her. But I would hate for her not to call in. And you know how I do. She gonna get roasted. Uh, hey Lynette. So one of my concerns is this. Well, we know that my book, I'll call it my second book because the other one was the same. I just did a revised one. Um, just recently came out, the author's copy. I had to make a correction on that. So this one just came in today, it was corrected, the cover. And uh, Chrissy Pooh, thanks for joining. Dietrich Muhammad, thanks for joining. So you know me, I'm gonna go hard when it comes to book sales. And it was interesting that I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was talking about self publishing, and they were saying the pros and cons to it. But they also were saying like most self publishers probably when they write a book they may only sell like 100 copies. Well, you already know I'm competitive, so if that's the benchmark, I probably exceed that by 7, 8, 9, 10 times because I go higher, especially with cocktail conversations. I probably was selling like 80 books a month for the first uh, 3 or 4 months. So with that said, I think what irritates me, and you got to understand where this is coming from because also I was watching a game, the Steelers game, and they were down 14-0 to the bum ass Miami Dolphins. So I'm already irritated. But also would irritate me, far as with anything with people trying to sell stuff and branch out, be entrepreneurs and do their own little thing. When I reach out to you, I'm not saying I'm bigger than life or anything, especially if I know you personally. I reach out to you, inbox you, and now I understand when the kids, I always say it's a lot of parallels with middle school, their situation is and our situation and our situations. And when they come in my office, there's like, well, they left me on scene. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's like, well, they seen the message, but didn't say anything. So now I'm like, damn, I know what it feels like. I know you personally. I reach out, send you a message, and you look at it and you don't respond. You don't say anything. Not today. I'm not interested. You just look at it. So to me, how I operate is, y'all know I cuss on here. I have to turn on this fan a little bit, but that's too loud. To me, it's just pretty much saying, fuck you. I got other stuff to do at that point. And I think it's disrespectful because if besides sending those chain videos and stuff, if someone came out and you used my name in it and you said you had this going on, I'm going to reply. Whether I say, when I get home and get situated, I'll take a look at it or something. I'm just not going to leave somebody on scene. Totally disrespectful. And that's just one of the concerns. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but I'm going to get the shit off my chest because I can. And another thing is, damn, man, we sit here and we talk about uh, black people need to stick together. We need to do this and do that. Like I said before, secretly, I already know that. That's just talk, man. That's so dead, and we so far from that. Prime example, a couple weeks ago, I decided to post a picture. I don't know if I spoke on this before, but it was a picture I stole from the that was circulating, and it was an engagement ring, and it was a guy with like the dirty nails, looked like he worked on cars, and the car was filthy, and then it was a woman, dirty leggings, her nails is dirty. So I said, man, I'm tired of it ain't nothing out here. It's time for me to settle down. And I posted that. Man, oh man, all the people that are saying congratulations. Really? Really? Do that even look like me? And it was relatives and all of that stuff. And I know people would say, well, that was a good thing. No, it's not a good thing because I think people essentially probably was getting personal entertainment off of that. Like, damn, that car dirty as hell. His nails is dirty as hell. A couple people had verbalized it. Is like it seemed like y'all should focus on cleaning y'all nails or getting some um, what is it, pedicures and stuff like that. But they went on to like that and make comments. But then when I post my new book, these same people, oh, y'all didn't see that, right? Y'all didn't see that. Y'all missed that post. And these is people close to you, relatives, family, and stuff like that. That shit pissed me off, whatever, because we so far off from, like I said, from even showing love or anything. And I'm not saying you have to do it for me, but I would think people that family, and I know they always say, well, family and friends is the worst thing. But when you come from like Niagara Falls, it's a close knit town, small town. So it's not like it's a major big city that or family that you don't know. These people we broke bread with, they spent the night, you hang out, your mother and their mother was good friends, and it's all that. But man, the hatred is real. Uh, who else came on? Carlos Muhammad came on. Thanks for joining. Shannon, remember I can't. I don't know why this stuff fades out. Ebony Swanson, thanks for joining me tonight. Carlos said the town is a dud. It is dud. Family is dud. All of that stuff, and I'm saying it. And I'm saying it. It's ridiculous. But you know me, that's not gonna stop my flow. That's just one of my concerns, and probably what irritated me when I look at the score and see the Steelers losing 14-0. So I'm already in a uh, little irritated. But anyways, Sherry Woods, thanks for joining me tonight in the Counselor's Corner. So that's enough of that. And I'm just letting you just know if you ain't watching the video, you on alert status, people. You on alert status. Do not leave me on scene. Do not disrespect me like that. You say yay, nay, or something for real, because I'm gonna take it personal. Hey Marcia, how you doing? All right, Herb. So the topic: should pastors be held to a higher standard? Um, what's your take on that? I mean, I can kind of say that before I let you go in. I mean, we all know that they're human, that they make mistakes and things happen. I think sometimes when you're in different positions like that, you're going to be under the microscope. So any little thing could be held to you. But I guess Sondra, who wanted me to bring up this subject, her thing was kind of like they get away with a lot. Like, why do they get away with so much? So that's why it was important for her to join us. Carol Harrell, thanks for joining me tonight. So, Herb, what's your whole take on that?
Ah, man. Well, first of all, let me send my condolences to the Steelers. You know, if I'd known it was gonna be that bad, I'd take my Heinz Ward jersey out, you know, blessed it. But I I didn't think it was gonna die like that. But we talk about this often, and there's a seven-letter word that is all encompassing when we talk about this, and it's culture. We we see this across just about every religion, with the exception of Islam. I haven't heard anything um, in the realm of pastor. I don't think Islam use pastors, or they use ministers, I believe, from what I understand. I could be incorrect. Towers, you can correct me on that because you're more of an authority than I am. But pastoral, ministerial misconduct, and the culture here in America is really mimicking what's going on in the Catholic Church. Now, I don't know if that's symbiotic. I don't know if it's karma. I don't know if it has anything to do with the teachings or the conduct filtering out. But once upon a time, the Black church used to influence Black America. And now it's the opposite, where the Black culture is influencing the church. And we see that behavior being mimicked in what is going on in the church. The church refuses to take a stand on popular issues that impact the Black community more than they do any other community. They refuse to tackle fatherless homes, whether that's making both parties, whether it's male or female, accountable for their decisions and having sex irresponsibly. Now, understand, I'm not pointing the finger at men. I'm not pointing the finger at women. What I'm simply saying is there's accountability on both parts. This is not about blame. Blame is different. This is about taking responsibility for your actions in the deterioration of the culture that we all are immersed in. Nobody is untouched by culture. I don't care if you're making six figures. I don't care if you're making five figures, four figures, or no figures. We're all in it. To a degree, you can try and isolate yourself from it. But once you step outside and you go into the real world, you're in it. We've seen well-to-do men caught up in nonsense. We've seen poor men caught up in nonsense. Nobody really can escape it once you step outside the house, unless you have a few things that are well-grounded. One is you're grounded in morality. Two, you're grounded in your personal principles. And people will say, well, what's the difference? Morality is similar to what they say about integrity. It's doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And some people will take that and say, well, what's the right thing? If you have to ask that question, then you have some issues that you need to personally resolve. And that's the second point. Your personal conduct will always govern you regardless of where you are. So if you don't do certain things at home, you're not going to do certain things in the street, no matter who's around you, no matter what influences you have. And this is what teenagers have to navigate. They have that peer pressure, and for them, that peer pressure is insurmountable. You know, they feel the need to fit in. As an adult, the only person you should be concerned with fitting in with is yourself. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been pressured to do things, and I'm just like, that's not what I do. That's not who I am. It reminds me when I went to school at State, and we would be getting ready to go out, and it was a Sunday, so we would always hit a club in Hamilton called Roxy. And I had my little 82 Buick Century. We used to pile in there. People would be like, yo, we trying to drink, man. We trying to drink. Yo, we can't drink if somebody ain't driving. And people that knew me knew I didn't drink. So it's like, yo, Herbert's gonna drive. We ain't got to worry about that. And the people that didn't know, because we would go up there with some heads from New York City, they'd be like, how are you just going to let that man say he's going to drive without drinking? You ain't even asked him. They would turn around and ask, Herb, are you drinking? No, I ain't. I'm straight, man. Y'all can go. I'll drive. They'd be like, yo, what is wrong? They say, he just don't drink. Now, mind you, I didn't have my first drink of alcohol until I was 24, and that was at my older brother's wedding. That was under the duress of them beating my behind if I didn't drink to celebrate his wedding, so I did. But a lot of people don't have that wherewithal to resist that. They figure they have to fall in order to be in. The way you can be in any crowd is by being yourself, because people rely on a couple of things. The one is you being consistent, whether it's bad or good. And believe it or not, being inconsistent is consistent. So people are like, yo, we don't know what we're going to get with her. We don't know what we're going to get with her. We sent this individual message, just like you were saying at the top of the show with your counselor's concern. You sent the message out. You don't know if this person going to, like you said, leave you on scene, or as the younger people say, leave you on scene, which I think is kind of funny because I've never heard the comment before, but I think it's apropos. You know, you getting ready to roll out with the crew at 11 o'clock. The crew ain't showed up and you all dressed up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang, well, what do I do? What do I miss? Like, you turn around and see the messages on Facebook, yo, we had a good time. It's like, yo, y'all just love me? Oh, man, well, we forgot and this, and, yo, we didn't know that, and I told such and such to do this, and they didn't do that. I thought they was coming to get you. So it's out there. So, you know, we have to be cognizant of what's going on in the world, not only in your family, in your community, and in your city, but just in the world in general. So this, you know, type of conduct in the church isn't new. It's just now being brought about to the forefront. And this is something that's been going on decades ago, where it was difficult for any leading man to get into a position of power without having a wife. And you can look at American presidents. There's only been one that has never been married. And now some of you know, I mentioned podcasters, you know, that I check out on YouTube all the time. And Kevin Samuels did a podcast on this. And I don't have the title of that podcast specifically, but what I'll do at the end of the show is I'll go search my archive and I'll link that podcast to, I believe you'll probably do a watch party afterwards, David.
Yeah, no question. But Herb, before you go on, I just need to know, like, as far as with pastors and stuff. I mean, we just seen, what's his name? He's popular as hell now. Pastor, what's his name? David Wilson.
Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, he went to town, man. I guess he put in work. But these type of acts are happening all too it's too familiar. It's happening on a regular basis. And I just want to know, because I know, like, for me as an educator, shit, you do the littlest thing, you damn near they calling for your job. Granted, when you're tenured, it may take a little longer, or it would have to be something like kind of excruciating before they get rid of you. But I guess from Sondra's vantage point is saying, like, a lot of these guys that's leading the church, they're getting away with a lot of things, a lot of things with some of their behaviors. I mean, should they be held to a higher standard, or should it be somebody that studied the Bible? I don't know how they go about the election process. They end up being the head of the church, or if they had to go to, like, some type of, I don't know, what's the school for pastoral type of counseling or something like that. And now they have a whole congregation, and what's the repercussions? What's the consequences of them? And when people, because I post some scenarios throughout, and some people are like, well, I just mind my business. That's not my business, whatever. But any other job, it's your business. It's your business. When a teacher or somebody does this, you're all up in their business. Is not your child, but you're all up in their business. But pastor, is not your business. You're gonna mind your business because he'll be judged. Nobody gets away with anything, which I think that's a bullcrap statement in itself. And I don't know if they're looking for the life after death or whatever the case is. This stuff just don't add up. But that's my take.
What people don't realize is that type of damage is twofold. And the part that we really don't focus on is the destruction and the distrust that it fosters in the Black church and largely into the Black community. Because now we start to hear this chatter, and it's becoming a very loud chatter, is that Black men can't lead us. And the first thing that a lot of people like to point to is the Black church. They say, well, look at the Black church and look at where it's going. The Black church is headed by the Black man, which is true, unquestionably. I'm not sure what the percentages are, but I think about 90 to maybe 95% of churches are headed by Black men. The caveat is this: who are they supported by? And this is what we have to think about. If the Black church is built upon the support from the money of Black women, then Black women, and this is unfortunate, you have to be the one that calls out this type of behavior, and you have to do it by withholding your tickets. Money, they say the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of it. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that these pastors, ministers are living a life of luxury because their whole financial existence is tax-free. So you want to shape their behavior, you want to shape their conduct, stop giving them money.
Hold on, Herb. Before you go on, Carol made a comment. She said before they take on this type of commitment, there should be an internal transmission that occurs and is consistent to prevent becoming weak as head of the ministry. Most answer the calling without making a complete transformation on the inside. No disrespect intended, just my opinion.
That's to her point, that's true. But the caveat is, how long does it take before an individual is compromised? Like they say, everybody has their selling price. The only group of people I know that have been above that are monks. I don't know of any other group of people that have been above being bought and being sold. And I've had the privilege of being in the physical presence and meeting some Tibetan monks. And I tell you, it's a humbling experience. It really is. Because when at least 3 or 4 occasions, because I worked in the hospitality industry for 30 years now, I've met people from just about every walk of life you could potentially and possibly imagine. And like I said, it's a humbling experience because you actually get to be around somebody who is not driven by money. Their basic needs are met. They get to travel, and they live a very simplistic life. You know, we hear about Wu-Tang mentioning Shaolin Temple and a lot of their rhymes. And I really don't think people have actually taken any time to actually sit back and just read. You don't have to study, just read about their culture, their lifestyle. And I mentioned something earlier about the Catholic Church. We see now that all types of abuse issues are starting to play the Catholic Church. And not that Catholicism and the many offshoots of the Black Church, whether it's Baptist, Episcopalian, Lutheran, we start to see how that is slowly reaching its tentacles back and touching that too. And it's not that big of a shock to people that understand how religion was given to us. It's not something we accepted. Religion was given to us because as our ancestors were taught to read, the first book that they were taught to read from was the Bible. So to me, it's no shock that this type of stuff has happened. It's just a matter of time that it was actually going to surface. So you have to understand that this type of behavior was soon to occur. Now, it's unfortunate that the people who really can least afford to be misled are the females in those parishioners, because they're looking for spiritual guidance. We know above and beyond that women across every demographic are more spiritual than men. Men tend to be grounded in reality, which brings me to another podcast that I'm currently listening to. It's a 10-hour, what he refers to as hangout, or what a hangout is, and the gentleman is BGS, and I've mentioned it before. What a hangout is essentially it's a male-dominated space where they come in, they talk about male issues, in particular Black male issues, and how to try and right things. This hasn't been a topic of conversation, but the Caucasian DJ, and I don't know what media outlets people listen to, but I think this is in either South or North Carolina, a small city where he's purported to have infected at least 600 people with HIV. He knew his status. The CDC knew his status, and they have been tracking him for the better part of, I believe, a decade. And reportedly, the only reason he is now being arrested is because he actually slept with a Caucasian female. So Black women, you have to understand, even if other people don't understand your worth, you have to find worth in yourself. And you're not going to find your worth through sex. I know pop culture sells it to you. I know you're being told that, but trust me, you're not going to find your worth through sex, at least to a man who values women beyond that. And this is what we have to get across to the younger generation. We have to get this across to the girls who are essentially prepubescent and coming into puberty. Because if we don't rescue them now, if we don't inform them now, and we've always said this, communication is the number one thing. Communication has to be from the child to the adult. And that line of communication has to be open. They are going to fall farther behind than what this generation is now.
Well, let me add to that. And it seems like that would be a losing battle, because for younger people, what's going to make them respect you, they look at more materialistic stuff. When you start talking about, finances and different things, they actually look at, tangible stuff that they can see, because, their mindset is, oh, that person is, they balling, or, whatever word. I can't even think of the stuff that they say, the stuff that they say off the top of my head right now, but they're going to look at that. And when you're in a position like that, that kind of, you get their attention. That commands their respect. So when it's just somebody else talking, even a parent, and they see or know your struggle on a regular basis, they kind of looking at you sideways like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you can even give me this. You can't even do this. You can't do nothing for me. Anything I ask you, you can't come through. So, and then that's where a lot of the disrespect comes in. And I did want to also bring up the point where, we say that women, I think I had read some stats before that said it's like 6-1 women outweighing men as far as attending church and stuff like that. And you have some guy, and then you see a lot of women that say, single women that say, well, they need a God-fearing man. They want some man that's spiritual and all that stuff. And I say to myself, you might get lucky and run into that, but otherwise you might have to move in another direction if you're really looking for something, because I don't know if not too many men are knocking down the door, because people are, like you said, men deal with reality, or at least their perception of your perception is your reality, so they may not totally believe in the whole concept, or they're looking at something's wrong, or somebody has all this power and he's just a man, and meanwhile you're on a grind every day, you're working doubles and doing stuff like that, and the concept of me going there and giving up my damn money there, nah, it ain't gonna work like that. So I think it's always gonna be some friction um, in most relationships with uh, men and women, adults, and also with children.
Yeah, I agree. Let me read this comment by Marcia. She says, what bothers me about some black churches is when the elderly get sick or have hardships, they don't even get any acknowledgement from their pastors, not even a visit and or any type of monetary assistance. But yet the elderly are the ones who usually give the all to ensure the church stays afloat. And to that, when we did the show on religion, I spoke about the older African American female who had been excommunicated from her church because she couldn't meet her tithe duties. That's a microcosm of that point. I said it once and I'll say it again. If you want to control the church pastors and their behavior, you have to control what feeds them. Your financial contributions is what will control their behavior. So if you think your church is not assisting those in need, call them out. Call them out publicly, call them out privately. Use Facebook. If you have Twitter, Instagram, Snap, use your resources. People think one voice doesn't make a difference, and I'm here to tell you it does. The only question is how big a difference. Everybody has the power to influence someone.
But wouldn't that be taking for some people? Wouldn't that be taking a major risk if that's all you know and you grew up into that church, and then all of a sudden you want to ruffle the feathers and you want to call them out, meaning other people still believe in what's going on, they still have that hope, and they still chasing that silver bullet, and then you come out and you call them out when you take a risk of losing not only maybe a potential pastor or reverend, but other people like family members and close friends.
Yes, and that's the conundrum that women face. Women are social creatures, so the last thing they want to do is be by themselves. So as opposed to call out misconduct or anything of that nature, they sit silently. We saw that on the post, or at least I saw that on the post, when a lot of women said they would mind their business when they saw the pastor creeping midday. So if you are willing to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the people who are supposed to be leading you, then you have to ask yourself the question, how am I going to be able to choose a mate to father my children and steward them in the right direction? And I think that's the question that a lot of women don't ask, or they don't want to face. They ask the question consciously, but subconsciously they don't want to deal with what potential lies behind that door. So they say, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to remain in this blissful state that I've created for myself, that nothing can harm me. God has got me. Well, God gave you free will, if I'm not mistaken. And that's always a debated issue. Gave you free will to do what? But you have the free will. And sometimes, in order to get to a place of comfort, and you say this all the time, David, you have to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So if you want to be someplace where a man of the cloth is going to rise above his physical nature, then you have to make sure he does. We see this all the time with politicians. They say, hey, look, if you don't like what a politician is doing, vote him or her out. It's that simple. You control the individuals that lead you, not the other way around, or at least it shouldn't be that way. And I can tell you from a communal aspect that's what we're going through here in Niagara Falls. And I'm sure a lot of people don't know listening. This city right now is running a structural deficit. This city is $12 million in the red, and most of that cost is our cost. So now we coming, actually in less than 2 weeks, November 5th, we have some major decisions to make. We have to choose a new mayor, because our current mayor is not running for re-election. There's an issue with the Seneca Nation of Indians and whether they're going to continue to honor, and this gets into a lot of political stuff that I don't want to get into because it bogs the conversation. But just for brevity's sake, whether they're going to donate the money that they're supposed to legally. And then the city council. But whoever wins, there's the potential that a control board is going to be voted in to make drastic cuts across the board. It doesn't matter where that axe falls. So this is what women have to understand. You have to understand that you're going to have to call to task the people that you want to lead you so they take you in the direction that you want to go. Because as David mentioned earlier, men, and black men particularly, are checking out of the church. They are not giving their money, quote unquote, to anybody that is not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I know I personally haven't. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I would just have a hard time, and I'm grounded by my own. I ain't gonna say, I'm grounded. I'm not gonna say I'm someone that attend a religious service and all that stuff. I believe, but also I understand this. I work hard on a daily basis, and I just don't. I don't see that concept of me putting anything in a damn cup constantly on a regular basis and hoping that there's something going to be good, something good going to come out of it in return. And meanwhile, on the other flip side of it, when you try to do your own thing and no one pays attention to that. So that concept is, I could be sitting there and they're like, okay, the bucket going by the basket, keep that shit rolling, keep it rolling. They ain't getting nothing here. And you can be upset or angry or at my take on this, but I just don't see the point of it. I mean, there's a point, but I just think that a lot of it is just like with politicians, and even when you have administration or people in school, board members, everybody some way has a hidden agenda and they're looking out for themselves. So if they can slice off a majority, a piece of that pie, that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to make sure self-preservation, that they're taken care of and their family is taken care of. Then whatever crumbs is left, then they'll deal with the others.
Yep. So it's a routine task, holding people accountable, but that power is in our hands. Whether you're in the church or in some other walk of life, you have to use that power. Now, I consistently post about public issues. Rarely do I use my Facebook for things that really are a benefit to myself, shall I say. I mean, I already know where my path, where I want my path to take me, so I plan accordingly. And you and I were just discussing this earlier, David, about my 4-year plan to be debt free and the benchmarks that I have set up for myself to meet. And I think a lot of people, as opposed to, and I'm just going to throw this out there, as opposed to having New Year's resolutions, because that seems to be the top du jour, come up around November, December. Well, what are your New Year's resolutions going to be? Well, what are you trying to improve on this year?
I got to laugh at that.
Self New Year's resolutions. Make life resolutions. Where do you want to be in 5 years financially? Where do you want to be in 5 years spiritually, physically, mentally? Type those things. Give yourself something to shoot for 5 years from now, a decade from now, a generation from now. What do you want your kids to be? How you want your house to be? How you want to look? How you want your life to be? Write those things down. Those are the benchmarks you should shoot for. And I tell you what, add your religion in there. If your church isn't doing what you want, if your church isn't doing what you want it to do, add that to the list too. And sit down with people from your congregation, and y'all have these meetings. And it doesn't have to be, 15, 20 people. It can be a group of 3 or 4 people. Y'all can sit down and at the local cafe. I know here we have a couple places where people meet and they talk about social issues and political issues. It's a reason to get out and meet with people. We spoke about this last week. We don't do enough of that in this today's society because of the advent of cell phones. So it made getting together, hanging out, something of a relic. And people don't understand why the communities are broken. Well, your communities are broken because your interpersonal relationships are broken. So you can't have a community if you don't have a peer-to-peer relationship. If you walk out your house every day for a month straight and you don't speak to any of your neighbors, then you have to ask, what type of neighborhood do you have? Never mind community. I know, I like to walk, so I don't mind. I'm not hell-bent on owning a vehicle. So for me, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I'm going to get through whether I'm taking a taxi, riding a bike, taking public transportation, or walking. But that allows me to see people in my neighborhood. It allows me to speak. Somebody's moving out, somebody's moving in. I see that. Somebody just a couple of days ago, I was out raking my lawn, and my neighbor's daughter. Now I didn't know who she was at the time. Walked to the side of the house, and was climbing up the fire escape. Now we're talking in the middle of the day. It's about 3:30, and I looked. I'm like, and I said, "That's an odd way to enter the house." She said, "Yeah, I know, but I'm locked out and I don't have a key." I said, "Your parents didn't give you a key?" I said, "No." I said, "All right, not necessarily my business." Now, we're not talking about climbing up a fire escape 1 story. We're talking about climbing a fire escape up 3 stories.
I thought she was Spider-Man or something, whatever. She was tripping.
And I'll finish the story because it's kind of, it all works back. the father pulled up, and I asked him, unbeknownst to me at the moment that was his daughter. I said there was a young girl that climbed up the fire escape, to the house. I said, do you know of anybody that lives there? He said, oh yeah, that's my daughter. I said, huh? He said, they're always losing keys and they're not responsible. So I don't give them any more keys. He said, when they get money, they don't give me any money to get the keys made, so I'm not giving them any more keys. And I understood succinctly what he was talking about. That's what you have to do as parishioners to a church where you don't think what your needs are being met. You have to send a message that, hey, look, we're not going to tolerate this. Either you do right or I'm going to do right by leaving. And believe me, when enough people leave that church, guess what they take with them? They take that money. And what do pastors, what do they not want to lose out most on? That money. That's your hammer. And for women who think their voices don't matter, I'm telling you, get together and start talking among your peers. Y'all come to a consensus of what you all want, because it is your church. I don't care who's the pastor, who's the reverend, who's the preacher. It's your church.
Come on, Herb, man. We know that people ain't gonna do nothing but posture and post up on social media. They have no desire. You talk about, far as the politics and things in Niagara Falls, certain situations where you tell people go to the board, show up at the board meetings. They just gonna talk. They just gonna showcase on social media. They have no desire to confront any issue head on. And hey, that's our culture. That's what we do. Sell wolf tickets all day long. Not everybody, but most. And that's why shit never gets done. That's why it never gets done.
I'm happy to report that last week at the planning board, a medical, let me not call them a medical because they're not necessarily in the medical field per se, an investment group named Delaware, I can't remember their entire name, but they're looking to build a residential facility almost along the lines of in-treatment program in the Highland Avenue district. Now, a group of about 20 to 30 people got together and voiced their opposition. Now, unfortunately, what I think what some people didn't realize was that the only responsibility that the planning board has is whether or not to determine that the specs that the organization is speaking about can need approval for the zoning board to grant the right to build the facility. Now they got a say in the decision making, which is going to allow them to marshal support, so people can call the group that owns that land and tell them not to sell, which is what needs to be done. And I was happy to see that there were a lot of people that gathered and they understood what the issues are. So, they're starting to come around. It's been a slow iceberg moving process, but they're starting to come around. But it took one voice to gather all these people.
Let me get understanding. So you said they were trying to, and I want to read this comment first. Carol said, when do we consider it to be confrontational? So I want to touch on that. But what did you say that they're building a facility? So does it create jobs?
Well, that's a caveat. The jobs that it's going to create are not jobs that are going to allow people to become homeowners. So if you're putting a quote unquote business in the most economically disadvantaged neighborhood in the city, and is not going to add those type of jobs, then you don't want that there. On top of that, the clientele that they're bringing in is less than standard. They're going to be bringing in, aside from the veterans, You know, disabled veterans I have no problem with. They've earned that. They put their life on the line for that. But the other people that they're bringing in, absolutely not. And Niagara Falls now, with the advent of the city struggling to maintain a 50,000 people threshold, and the reason why 50,000 is the threshold is because it allows the city to apply for grants. Once you drop below 50,000 people as a population, you can no longer apply for grants, whether they're whether they're state or federal grants. So that's the reason why 50,000 becomes a benchmark. So, and not only that, the apartment that they're advertising are going to be above market rate rent. And if anybody doesn't understand what a market rate rent is what the average rent is in that community or in that city predominantly. So they're talking about $675. Now, I know for a fact that you can go out and get a mortgage and your mortgage payment will be less than that. I know because I pay a mortgage. If my mortgage rate, if my mortgage payment was that much, I would have to be making in essence about $50,000 a year just to afford a home. We're not even talking about the other things, cars, utilities, whether you have kids, a wife, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My payment in terms of mortgage is less than that. And if I were looking at my overall situation in conjunction with what they're charging, then I'd be paying way too much just to live in a place where I don't even control my immediate area. So, you know, people stood up and say, look, we don't want this. And hey, you can call it a case of NIMBY, and I'll be the first to say yes. But they have a right to say NIMBY. NIMBY just stands for not my backyard. So people understand that a voice of one united with other voices of one becomes a loud chatter. And if that chatter becomes loud enough, people pay attention to it, especially politicians. Why? Because, believe it or not, they're elected on public support. It don't seem like it. Everybody always points to, you know, the Electoral College and the presidency of the United States. That's not the biggest position that you need to be concerned about in your life, believe me. Because if your city council decides to raise your taxes, guess what the president can do? Nothing. If they decide to raise tickets for speeding, seatbelt, illegal parking, guess what the president can do? Nothing. If your county decides to raise their taxes, guess what the president can do? Nothing. So people understand and get involved. Get involved wherever you can. And more importantly, take your kids with you so they understand the process, because they are going to inherit what you leave behind. And if you leave behind feces, that's what your kids are going to walk in. If you leave behind well-maintained sidewalks, homes in the community, that's what your kids are going to inherit. And everything, I don't care who you are, what you do, I include myself in this, no matter what you do or you don't do, that's what you're leaving behind for the kids that come in your wake. This is why I'm always talking about our mentoring program. And yes, we struggle with our mentoring program mightily. But I understand the struggle will be worth it if we are successful, because the kids that are coming up behind us will have something that they can build upon. So people do it. The confrontation, it might be loud, it might be destructive, but ask yourself, if you are destroying something that is inherently evil, is it worth it? And in my estimation, yes, it is.
But I think that's the whole thing, is being consistent. Many people have the have the mindset when stuff is at its greatest height, that's when they want to be on board. But soon as, you hit a little bump in the road, or you say, well, I can't make this meeting. And then when you miss one meeting or whatever the case is, it leads to two or three meetings. Then you just kind of wash your hands of stuff. And that's how stuff usually happens. And I can say, even in schools, you start off every year, people start off with this attitude, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to put this in place, this is going to happen this day. And me for being in it for a while, I just sit back. I'm quiet anyway. I just observe, and I just sit there with like a little grin. Like, here we go again. And you know damn well that it's not going to play out that way. So I think sometimes people have intentions, may have intentions on trying to do something, but your everyday life, that stuff takes over. And like you was mentioning earlier, Herb, and I always spoke on this. We can't, city and all that stuff, you have to take step by step. And that's why I always say with cocktail conversations, this counselor's corner, we have to deal with stuff in the homes first and build strong homes. Then when you step outside in your neighborhood, try to build strong neighborhoods, communities, and then it spreads to citywide, statewide. But when we have a bunch of messed up homes, what the hell do we expect to happen as far as communities? Really, what do we expect to happen?
Well, a whole lot of what is ongoing, and that's dysfunction and chaos. And, even the Phoenix, the mythical Phoenix bird, has risen from the ashes. And I think we have to find the pieces that we can use and start to reassemble, the fabric of what once was. And I'm not going to say if that can be done. I'm going to say when that can be done. Then we will start to see a sea change and a shift in the direction that we're going. Now, understand this. Not everybody is going to be able to make that journey. And this is going to sound rather harsh, and I'm going to say it, and I'll deal with the backlash later. It's akin to the middle passage. Some people aren't going to make it, and you have to be willing to push those people overboard. Because if you don't, not only will they sabotage what you're trying to do, they're going to try and stop you. It's just like, your house is on fire and you're trying to get out. Somebody says, well, I got to go back and save this. Are you going in there with them? I'm not. And I'm going to tell them, hey, look, if you're going there, you're going there alone. I'm not coming to save you. It's the old, I can't remember the story with who turned to a pillar of salt from the Bible. I can't recall right now, but it's that story. It's that parable all over again. Don't look back. Look forward. Keep moving forward, even if you have to move inch by inch, progressively. A slow progression forward is better than doing nothing and remaining stagnant.
And what you said, it kind of reminded me of, how we have all these school shootings and stuff lately that, remember the message used to be that, you go in your classroom, you hide under a desk or whatever the case is. And if you're hiding under a desk and somebody come in there, the hell, you're a cooked goose pretty much. But now the message is, if you know that they're on this side of the building, your ass need to head out the door and just keep running and keep running and keep running. You're not going to go back. And I often tell students when we're in my office and they're like, so what would you do, Mr. Glover? So we're going out this window. They said, but we're on the second floor. I said, I would take my chances of landing breaking something or whatever the case is to live than to be caught up and end up one of us dying. So you have to keep pushing forward if you want to live. And hiding and covering, balling yourself up under covers and being in a fetal position, you're good as cooked. You're good as cooked. So, like I said, I'm out. I'm out. Just wanted
miles of running. And the funny thing is that I just thought about this occurred, this thought actually, the memory I should say, just popped into my head. First History Center, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it doesn't really matter. We used to climb up on a second story landing and used to hang drop from the roof. That was about a 20-foot drop. So, you fell for about a good second and a half, and after you started going, you was like, yo, you know what? That was about that. Let me go do that again. And I think that sense of fear for us, or at least the kids that did it, really was mitigated because we were like, jump out of a second story window. Man, I do that blindfolded, hands tied behind my back because we were so accustomed to doing that. You look at these kids of this generation now, what don't they do? Yeah, they don't play outside. You don't see the boys wrestling. You don't see them slap boxing. You don't see them doing any of that. So physical discomfort, I'm not even going to say pain, I'm going to say physical discomfort is something new to them. Every summer we would come back from school, you would see somebody with their arm in the cast, foot in the cast, or something. What'd you do? Oh, man, I broke my arm. Did it hurt? Yeah, for a little bit. But, once I got to the hospital, they gave me some painkillers. They said it. I was fine. Yeah, now I just got to deal with the itching from the skin.
Yeah, these kids trip over their own feet.
How often do you see a kid with a cast on nowadays?
Oh no, they have them on when you're in the school, but it'd be like, how did you do that? Oh, I fell and tripped over in the living room, and I'm being facetious, but it's something minor, and you're like, really? And you got this big boot on. How long you got to have that on for? And like you said, people used to climbing trees and doing on top of buildings. Yeah, that used to be the norm. I was never that type of kid because I was like, and to this day, I'm like, I don't like. Afraid of heights. I get on the plane and all that stuff, but that never was my thing. But like you said, Herb, that was kids used to just backflip and do all types of wild stuff and and didn't care.
And these things are gone, man. Everything is sanitized, or we don't want them getting hurt, or the kids. You have to keep the kids are naturally resilient. I think that's what we as adults don't really understand because so much has been taken out of being a kid, especially a young boy. And I know there's this attack on masculinity and trying to, make gender fluid. And look, there are female principles and there are male principles, and we're biologically wired differently for a reason. So I don't care who's talking about what, toxic masculinity. If it wasn't for toxic masculinity, women just still would be at home doing clothes in a big old steel tub with a washboard. That's what toxic masculinity has got you. You can hook up, you can go in a nice warm house, prepare a meal, you can throw clothes in a washing machine that doesn't have rollers, all this stuff. So I get tired of hearing about this toxic masculinity. I'm like, toxic masculinity built this world for your comfort, for the comfort of people. So we as humans wouldn't have to actually go out and hunt for food and go out and do this and go out and do that. We're in the relative confines of your home. So when I hear people talk about toxic masculinity, especially people who consider themselves devout feminists or feminist supporters, I'm like, go kick rocks. You have Carhartt, you have waterproof gear, you have steel-toe boots, you have all these comforts because men went out and forged for those things. They went out and said, what can we do to improve our world, to make it safer for people? It's absurd, man. Get off on that.
It's crazy. Well, it's 10:05, so we kind of over the time. Herb, you got any closing comments on this subject matter?
No, man, just hey, women, hold them accountable.
All right, and
Let me tell you.
that said, again, the title was "Should Pastors Be Held to a Higher Standard?" I mean, and like Herbert was saying, and points that I touched on, we are everybody's human, and it depends on you. Depends on the accountability that you put on someone. If you let stuff slide, then they're gonna continue to get away with what they get away. And if it's eating you up that bad, then eventually you'll say something. And or if you don't say something, you'll get a task force group or something. You'll get a task force group or something, and maybe someone else will say something. But if that's if you're not willing to do that, then you're gonna keep getting what you're getting. And we know what that definition is. You keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna keep getting what you're getting. Pretty much insanity. So we know that we have a lot of different a lot of issues, and we like to bring this to the forefront on in the counselor's corner. So hey, just listen, share the video, um, comment, stay tuned. You know, watch out for the post throughout the week, and let's build. Let's build. This is all we have. We have to continue to build and to grow. And with that said, I'm out. Again, get your pre-order sales in for No Friday Foolishness. I'm about to order the first book right now. I got about 20 pre-order sales in. And again, remember, the measuring stick is some people self-publish a book only sell about 100 books during their time. Well, I'm about one-fifth the way there, and I'm just starting fires with this book because we already know I did damage with the other book. But again, I'm out. And again, if I hit you up in your inbox and you leave me on scene, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. That's why I am the controversial counselor, because you know I won't smoke. All right, gang, have a good rest of the week. Talk to you next Monday, and you stay tuned for the post, and I'll be throwing a watch party shortly after. And everybody have a good evening. Be safe and be good, or be great. I'm out. Thanks, Evelyn, for joining. We out right now. Hopefully you'll join next week. All right. Peace.